How much training stimulus do you need to grow muscle? Today we're going to speak about reps, sets, and intensity per session. I'm going to shed a bit of light on this. Here's my own journey so far this year. Dieted down to 75, finishing that in February. We're now at 88 in September. The abs are starting to disintegrate, but we're definitely fuller across all realms, which is good. The goal was more muscle everywhere on the upper frame with maintenance on the legs. So, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Tom Sergi. I run the Gorilla Platoon, which is an online physique transformation program where we get results like this. And today we're going to discuss how much training stimulus do you need to grow muscle. And this was inspired thanks to a viewer and a commenter of the channel. By the way, if you ever have any questions that you want me to answer personally, trust me when I say I appreciate comments like this because, boys, I'll be honest, it gives me video ideas. It gives me stuff to speak about that come from real people rather than me just assuming your questions and issues. So fire them in. Comment on videos, tell me your issues, and I will make videos on them with what you say so everyone else can learn as well. So the question was, hey mate, how about a video on rep ranges, load and volume per session? I think it would nicely. I think most people following you already have hardcore mindsets. Fucking good. Fucking good. That's what we're here to do on this channel. The underlying principles, solid mindset to get you to the result. If you want video evidence of that, go back to the last video, how to go from 35 to 10% body fat in 22 weeks. You drop 29 kg, that is the mindset of all you fucking killers that we're going to develop on this channel. But anyway, today we're going to speak specifically on tactics to get you there. So, with regards to training, certainly myself, I'm quite sure on how to properly apply it on the gym floor to get the most juice per squeeze. So, let's fucking dance and give you exactly that. I'm just going to speak about what I've done with clients and myself, and then how I implement training stimulus as a whole to grow tissue. So, the first questions we need to ask ourselves are, there's four of them that I would get you to ask yourself. The first thing you need to understand is, what is the goal for your physique? Because you could say more muscle everywhere, and depending on your training age, that would be fair enough. But for, let's say you've been training for any more than 2 years' time, I want you to look at your physique and think, where is the priority areas? Where would give me the most happiness and enjoyment from developing those muscle groups? You're probably going to pick 2 or 3, which are going to be the focus. Like, from this gaining phase, I want to see more tissue across my bicep and tricep. Let's call that one if you want to. And also my chest. They're the main ones that would give me the most confidence, the best look of my physique. My lats are already wide, my quads are already thick, but that would give me the greatest impact on my physique. And that's me personally, that's what I want. So why I say that is you're going to gear your program, your split, and of course your volume around the priority areas. You can't make everything a priority and hit the upper tier of the volume across everything because it just costs too much time. And towards the back end of those sessions, your quality will start to diminish. So I would just say, for the season that you're on, depending on your training age, pick what is your primary goals. As you watch this video, you'll be able to shout to me now on the screen, it is this muscle and this muscle. These two are the longest levers that will bring me the most happiness. The next thing I want to ask you is, are you cutting or bulking? The reason I ask this is because we need to be selective with how we use your energy. If you're in a surplus, we can be aggressive. We can put drop sets. We can put back off sets in there. We can do try sets. We can do crazy shit because you've got the food to really send it with the stimulus. You've got the energy there to perform it. But if you're in a cutting phase, we want to be a little bit more selective because energy is limited, but we need stimulus, right? So what we want to do is maybe opt for something which is lower in volume, but highest fucking stimulus so that we can breach past the target that we're looking for to accumulate that muscle tissue. I guess in the realms of this video, no, it's relevant to cutting or bulking. Probably more so when you are in a gaining phase because you're looking to improve the areas. But even on a cutting phase, you still want to have the mindset of, I want to improve my physique. And also, for a lot of you that start, if you're starting, you may be in a dieting down phase because you're recomping. So you're going to be cutting, but the priority is still going to be to grow tissue. And as seen from a lot of the results, like all of these guys, every single one of them here, it was in a dieting down phase, technically, and still, well, look at this guy here, grew muscle, right? I'm not saying all of them definitely continuously grew muscle, but if you look across the results, I mean, it'd be hard to say they didn't at least grow some, or at the very least maintain their physique whilst in a cutting phase. So it is still relevant during both. Now, the next question you need to ask yourself is, how many times can you train per week? Because that will determine how we distribute the volume and how we implement that into a day-to-day training. And also, what is your training age? The reason I say that is, for whatever your training age, the answer to all of this is completely different, and I'll cover that in this video. If your training age is brand spanking new, 3 days per week, full body will be absolutely fine. You will grow. I've got a new client who has come to me brand new, never stepped foot in a gym, and we've been doing a 3-day full body split, and already physique is starting to develop quite nicely because he's brand new. So any stimulus you put on him, he's going to grow well. You almost need to look at stimulus like medicine. You don't need something that can cure cancer for your headache, obviously. Just like a fresh guy in the gym does not need a 5-day split. He can get enough dosage and stimulus off of a 3-day split and a full body. If your training age is like anywhere from a year to 18 months to 2 years, you want to be in the middle. You want to be around that 4-day training split per week. Now, let's say you've been training for like 4 years, but you're busy and you can only get to the gym 4 days per week. Like my client in the last video, we then just had to gear what's the goal, upper body, aesthetic physique. Cool. So we've got 2 sessions that we're going to duplicate to hit the muscle twice per week. With that, you're then going to make sure the volume and intention is geared to around those upper body muscle groups, and then the lower body will take a back seat, but still the minimum effective dose for it not to regress. So these are the questions I want you to ask yourself and write them down. What's the goal? Tell me the answers. Are you cutting or bulking? And then why that's going to be important. How many times per week can you train? And that also ties in with what your training age is. And then from where we can distribute your actual program itself. Now let's come back to this because it wasn't the overall question of the video. The overall question of the video was training stimulus. So I'll come back to programming as like a bonus at the end. So the next thing we want to look at then, reps, sets, and intensity. Now I want to start off by saying, I don't program very rarely just 3 sets of 8 to 12. Why don't I program like this? For a few reasons. If the goal is to grow tissue, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to exit out of the full screen. I'm going to draw. So if the goal is to grow tissue, let's move this up here. So you are here. We've got 2 options. We can, and the goal for growing tissue is this line up here. Okay, so we need to breach past this, okay? Now, what a lot of people will do when they will train, they will do 3 sets of 8 to 12, and they'll end up in this space here. Okay, still hard, still burn a shit ton of calories, still burn a shit ton of glycogen, but they'll end up here. They won't end up breaching past the goal. You know why? Because they'll take those 3 sets, and they will distribute their effort evenly across the 3 sets. It makes sense. When the number is the same across 3, you're going to want to make sure you at least complete over 8 across 3 sets. But that amount of stimulus may not be enough to breach the gap. Just like when motherfuckers will say, I can do 10 reps on X number on my bench press, so my 1RM is this. It's like, yeah, kind of, but it's not really the same. If I actually put that on the bar, can you lift it? No, you can't lift it then, can you? So what we want to do is concentrate your effort. The reason I don't do 3 sets straight and I aim for a top set and a back off set is it puts you in the mind frame of you need to fucking send it. You need to fucking send it. I'm only going to give you 1 set of 6 to 10 repetitions. That's it. And then after that, I'm going to curve the intensity by dropping the load by 20%. And then you're going to do a set of 12 to 15 because that's what you'll be able to do relative to the back off. Now, in the event that you're doing a machine, you can do 2 back off sets. Or you could even, maybe you could do 2 top sets, which can work. only on the spectrum of a machine. Why? Because the machine is stable. When something is stable, it is more loadable. Because the machine, as long as you press it, it will move in one direction which it's set and was built to do. Which means you can focus on, if it's a flat machine press, you can focus on simply driving your bicep to your pec. The machine, as you press against it, is going to move in a single direction. So no stabilization goes in. So where I'm going with that is, the effort that would have been used just to stabilize can now be concentrated onto the working muscle. But the reason I do a top set of 6 to 10 is you have to push really, really fucking hard. You've got one opportunity to absolutely send it. So then what does that make you do? It makes you push the intensity harder, which, because it was a concentrated effort rather than a distributed effort, you breach past the point that is needed to stimulate the tissue to either A, give it a reason to stay on your bones, or to B, breach through the point that is needed to force that muscle growth. And you could say, oh, but this could be done from 8 to 12. And I wouldn't disagree with you. But for human beings, I know people, if you're training by yourself and you go in, you do 8 to 12, it will still be tough, but you will not push it to the true aspect that was needed to breach the gap. The whole thing with training is honestly just getting you to train hard enough. And the thing is, the scope of hard is like this. Like, it starts hard here. It's not easy doing this. Of course it's not. And it's also really hard here. So people will hover around in this area, but never breach past this top point because they're just not training hard enough, but they think they are. What this would look like in a set, boys, looks something like this. This is how you know if you're breaching through in that top set. So it'll start off, you'll be in control. Cool. Pause in the lengthen, pause in the shorten, down nice and slow. We're thinking drive the bicep to the pec. Beautiful. Yeah, things are moving nice. We're staying composed. We're thinking. Our mind is present with the load that we're lifting. Tempo is good. Arm path is good. Range of motion is as full as it needs to be relative to the machine. Now, as it starts to slow down, we need to remain composed. It's starting to get a little bit tough now. Drive up. Composory breaths. This is what your last rep wants to look like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. 5 seconds to drive that load to the top. If I've got to do this times 3, I'm not going to be able to push like that. I'm not going to think, fucking send it, breach through the gap. Because I'm thinking to distribute my energy across 3 sets. And that's not really going to work. Now, this also works really well for when you're dieting, because you want to really be precise and pinpoint your energy and effort into something like this. If you train like this, the muscle will not leave your body. I tell you that, because you put enough stimulus and enough of a reason for it to go. You know why? Because the body doesn't want to be in a space of ragu. It wants to be in a space of, I don't want to be in this much clip next time, so I'm going to keep the muscle around so I can deal with the stimulus. Your body is just a direct reflection of the amount of stimulus you've put on it in the past. So if you're small, it's because you've not really put more tissue on. For the longest of time, I was training and thinking about the feel, and the feel's important to know that you're connected, but honestly, boys, just move a shit ton of load, and you'll be happy to know we're doing 3 plates on this now, because this was May, it's now September. So we've got 3 plates on this now for 9, nearly 10 reps. So we're progressing, right? So which is nice. Anyway, let's get back. So this is why I don't do a top set and a back offset. This is why I do top set and back offset, or a secondary back offset if we're looking to really progress things. Now, what is junk volume? Junk volume is similar to what I've touched on here, where you're training in and around this space for a good amount of repetitions, put in a fair amount of stimulus, but because you're doing 12, 24, 36 reps, but not breaching the gap to progress, you're not progressing. You're still maintaining, which is nice. But you're burning a lot of energy, and it just ends up becoming junk. Now, junk volume, to be a bit more extreme, is where you're finishing the set, and let's be honest, boys, you had like 3 reps in reserve. And like, you just finished there. And like, all you really did was you just burnt a bit of energy. That was all you did in there. That is real junk volume. And we've all done it. We've all been towards the back end of a set. And that set's not been effective. That set's not even going to grow tissue. That set is, if anything, it was just exercise. And that's what junk volume is. And that's what a lot of people fall. If you watch 90% of people in the gym, they're just doing junk volume. They're just tickling a bit of weights, crappy form. They're just thinking to like press the load down. They're not thinking stretch and shortening the working muscle. And they're actually spinning their wheels in here. Your proper gym guys, your gym bros up here, they're in this space, okay? These are people that are serious, but just need steering in the right direction. These people here are your fucking mincers that just go to the gym because everyone and his dog is now in the gym, so they just, I better go. And they just tickle a bit of weights and wonder why they look literally the same each year on year. And probably we've all been through these stages to get to the point as well. Now, the goal is 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week. Now, let's go back to our original question. What is the goal of your physique? For me, more muscle everywhere across the upper extremities, but mainly that fucking flat boy chest and the arms. They're the main efforts for me. So what we want to do is then gear your sets around that. So chest and arms want to be up towards, in and around anywhere from 18 to the top target of 20 sets. So you're going to structure your program like that to begin with. Then from there, everything else is going to be maybe a little bit closer towards 10, especially those muscle groups that are in a good space. They don't really need to be pushed up anymore. They can be in and around that space of 10. So with that in mind, you could literally just say, fine, well, I'll bang all 20 sets and I'll do them in one sitting. And I'll do, 20 sets across 4 or 5 exercises and that'll be fine. And in a weird way, bro splits, they're not wrong. Like, you're doing the sets at the end of the day. But why they get a bad rap and they're not as efficient is, let's be honest, set 16, 17, 18, 19 could be done more effectively. And if you broke them up and did them on a secondary day, you're going to be more effective, more direct with how you perform that. Versus because you're tired, right? At the back end of that session, you've already done 10 fucking arduous sets. And if they look like the video, you're going to be toast, all right? Of course you're going to be toast. So it serves you more to break it up and do different muscle groups and then use those other sets later on in the week. 48 hours after training a muscle really fucking hard, it's pretty much recovered, right? So you can go in again and then send it on this. So going back to his original question, rep ranges. So rep ranges, I'll tell you now, if it's an isolation, it's going to be higher reps. Of course it is, because it's isolation. So you're going to go 12 to 15, 12 to 15, back off set 15 to 20. And what this would look like here is, let's say, a pec deck, 12 to 15, 12 to 15, back off 15 to 20, making sure we're not missing on tempo, 3 seconds down, 1 second pause, 2 seconds back up. And with it being a pec deck, there's tension at the top, so cash in that 2 seconds. Then if it was something like a main money mover compound exercise, but it was free weight, we're going to go 2 sets. 1 top set, 6 to 10, fucking send it, do not miss. Take your 2 to 3 minutes rest, back off set, 12 to 15 reps. And the back off set, you drop by 20%. And what that's going to do is it's going to match the level of fatigue you've just accumulated across the first set, and then you then can progress this. Now, when you're trying to progress, boys, not every week you'll progress both sets. And in fact, it's a win if you progress the top set more than it is the back off set, because the top set, you're going to have more load physically in your hands, right? So for you to then move that load a full distance is a lot harder. The example I had yesterday was I was doing a top set on a flat dumbbell press. Actually upped the weight and got 9 reps. Tried to go for the 10, obviously, always try. But I was come down and I knew I wasn't going to get it. So I just drove against it, make sure it was toast, and then finished. Then I went on to the back off set, 12 to 15. Also the same weight as last time. And when I did that, I had the same feeling, but I was able to continuously drive it through and grind the rep out just because the load was less. And when you've got less load through the same distance of traveled, you're more likely to grind it out. So as long as you get a win on either the top set or the back off set, you're making progress. And maybe what will happen across the course of 2 to 3 weeks, you'll progress the back off set rep by rep by rep, and you might just maintain the top set. But after 3 weeks of grinding, right, it helps the top set and you get the top set over the line as well. Now, if we've got a machine, as said, we can do 2 top sets or 2 back off sets. Depends on the priority and the muscle group and where it sits within the session. That's also something to consider. Where does this sit within the session? And then we're going to change it like this. We then move on to a pin-loaded machine, shoulder press machine, because let's be honest, at this point, 3 exercises deep, I'm toast. And the reps progressively decrease as we go. They increase, which means the load progressively decreases as I go through the set. Drop 20%, drop 20%, boom, boom, boom. So that's the way I'm gearing the rep ranges. His next point of the video, load. So load is an important one. Now load, when you look at load, it just needs to be, you need to train to what? Failure, right? Now I use the term 0 reps in reserve, which means you couldn't have got another rep even if I had a fucking gun to your head saying go or I'm going to blow your brains out. That is the case of 0 reps in reserve. As a rule of thumb, you're going to use the video I showed you where it was about a 4-second concentric. Because at that point, you're spending so long to get that load up, you've just toasted the muscle off. And as a rule of thumb, like, cool, you've got the logbook, and yeah, you're trying to progress that every session, and it's absolutely always log your reps, but don't be so married to it. As long as you trained on that day to fucking failure, and you couldn't have got another rep out, load, tick. Intensity, tick. When we've got load, effort, and intensity, the load is used for intensity, and then you will apply your effort to that. So that's the difference between like intensity and effort. Intensity is the load itself going to be used. Effort is the amount of like what you can physically put into the set, and that's how we're going to manage, progressing through this form of stimulus. So with the load, you're always looking to train to 0 reps in reserve, unless it's week 1 in the training split. Just go in there, boys. Set your program, find the numbers, and then progress from there on. Every opportunity you get to progress load, take it. Do not wait a single week. If you hit the upper tier of the rep range, go up. Because I tell you now, it takes long enough as it is to grow tissue. Do not tickle the same weight for 2 to 3 weeks because it's more comfortable. Now, don't get me wrong. You'll have some weeks where you go in and you try to progress it and you just got a rep less. Because for whatever reason, you just didn't sleep as well. Your food was not in the same order. Whatever the fuck. The weather was different. There's always reasons why we just couldn't live the same. Don't get out of bed about it. As long as you trained really fucking hard to failure, load is ticked, because I guarantee you'll come back the week after or the week after that and things will fly up. I had that this week, everything up, boom, 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 we're flying, great week. And then we've looked at volume per session. Volume per session, what I would say is, you don't want to be in the gym any longer than 90 minutes, because that back end of 30 minutes, you're not going to be as effective. You're fucked at that point, you're tired, you've toasted everything off. You don't want to be in there if you're in there any longer than 90 minutes, I would look to distribute a little bit more effectively, or you're probably just looking to try and do too much. 8 exercises pretty much going to be in around the right space. Some of them 2 sets, some of them 3. Never really do 4 sets anymore, and that's how I'd be managing rep ranges, load, and volume per session. I believe we've covered all bases. We know why I don't do this. We know what junk volume is. We know how many sets we should be doing per muscle group per week with the goal that's intended. Make sure it's geared around your goal of the program. Are you cutting or bulking? Because if you are bulking, use those back off sets. You'll be able to get more volume on the tissue itself. How many times per week and what training age? I'll just give you some example programs. So we'll start off from back to front, actually. If you've got a training age of plus 2 years, you're going to go for about a 5-day training split, even if you've got specific goal areas to hit. 5-day training split, if you can do it. This one's geared towards building an aesthetic upper body. So you've got push-pull legs, chest and back, delts and arms. So legs is there enough for the minimum effective dose not to regress. And obviously you're still going to try and progress these numbers anyway, but we're not going to do it twice per week. Whereas if you're looking to be a strong fucking mule, for the longest of time I did legs twice per week. But my legs are just, they're big enough, and my upper body is the one that needs the attention. And then from there, you're going to distribute your volume across the 2 sets, and really delts and arms, giving it its own focus if arms are a weak point, which they are for quite a few people. They just don't grow as fast as everything else. In the event, you can only train 2 times per week. And again, the goal is, train 4 times per week, but the goal is upper body. Let's say the goal was lower body. You're going to just go upper, lower, done. If the goal is upper body, you're going to go full body push, full body pull with a leg exercise in both. And then the rest is going to be geared around chest, delts and tries, and then back and biceps. And then finally, if you're brand spanking new, what training split you're going to follow is a 3-day split, alternating a session every time you step on the gym floor, full body A, full body B, and rotating as you go through. And that's going to have a movement for quads, hamstrings, back, chest, shoulders, and arms, just the sister movements on the other session. So that is how I would approach how much training stimulus you need to grow muscle. We've answered that question in this video, touched on the points that were made by here. If you found this video of value, brilliant. Subscribe, and if you want to work with me, great. Book a call, and we'll take it from there.